I wanted to start this week by talking about a major development in the indie game dev community. Earlier this week, Unity Engine, an engine used by many independent game developers, such as yours truly, released a new policy related to how they will be collecting payment and royalties for the use of their engine. There's been a lot of controversy and outrage over this. People are very unhappy with it. I'm not going to go too much into the detail about it here because there's plenty of other sources you can look at for that. And I'll just briefly say that for my own case, it's not too big of a deal. I'm fortunate enough to be in a situation where the kind of work I do is not really going to be impacted that much by this policy. However, I know there are many developers out there who will be affected by it negatively, so my heart goes out to them, and I hope we see some changes that will help them out. However, there was one thing that I found to be a little bit odd about this whole controversy. You see, Monday morning, I received an email from Unity which contained a video that announced the new policy. And I thought that this initial video was where most of the outrage and controversy stemmed from, because in the video, the new policy was communicated in a very strange way. It was quite confusing and honestly, to some degree, kind of unprofessional. But I haven't seen this video posted anywhere really on social media yet. No one's really been mentioning it or talking about it, and I feel like it's a big part of the bigger picture of what's been going on here. So I thought I would go ahead and post the video here on my channel to give some more insight into the situation for those of you who are interested, and perhaps to help you make your own judgment call about whether or not you think Unity went about this the right way in making this kind of announcement as a company. So here it is. Let's go ahead and take a look.
I'm gonna take my big fucking balls and put them in your mouth.
Hey guys, welcome back for episode 5. Real excited to share with you everything that went on this week. Got a lot of great stuff to talk about. Game's looking godlike sick. But before we get to that, I have something I'd like to say to you.
I am so sorry.
You see, I have a confession to make. I did not work the 8 hours per day on the game that I promised myself I would work this week. Now, I still did work on the game every day. I got something done, and I still posted every day. But it's not as much as I should have done. And that's unacceptable. I broke my routine, I broke my discipline, and I broke my promise to myself. So I am now going to punish myself, live, on camera. I have decided that an appropriate punishment would be to give myself 8 lashes. 8 lashes will be symbolic of the 8 hours per day that I should have spent working on my game. And hopefully my future self will learn from this mistake. Now, unfortunately, I do not have a whip handy. However, I do have my skipping rope, and I think that will have to do. Let us begin. Another thing I wanted to do before moving on to the update about my game was tell you a little bit more about myself. You see, I realized I am now 5 episodes deep, and I haven't really told you guys anything about me. So here's a little bit more about Matt. I am a philosopher, an athlete, a playboy, a professional game developer. Well, I think that's a pretty comprehensive summary of me as a person. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I worked on this week. So on day 1, I brought back the energy recharge mechanic so that it now recharges slowly, because I felt as though when you run out of energy, being permanently stuck without energy until you kill someone could end up becoming tedious. I also changed the last stand attack that you have when you run out of energy to be based on a cooldown instead of having a limited number of uses that causes you to permanently run out once you use it. This way, in case you miss, you aren't just sitting there pointlessly waiting to die. Instead, if you can survive long enough, you'll have another chance to take another swing. On day 2, I spent most of the day contemplating my life choices, and seriously considered whether or not I should port the game to Godot instead of continuing with Unity because of their policy changes. Ultimately, once enough information came out and I understood how the new policy changes actually worked, I realized that it wasn't at least going to be that big of a deal for me, so I just decided to stick with Unity for now. Of course, this is subject to change if in the future Unity decides that I'm not allowed to use their engine because I made fun of their CEO. I also did some balancing and bug fixing with the clashing mechanic, which, if you're not familiar with it, is when you attack an enemy at the exact same time that he's attacking you. On day 3, I improved the hit detection from the melee attacks, and I also made it so that if you clash while using your last stand attack automatically has its cooldown nullified so that you can swing again. Which means that there is now a new mechanic where if you clash with an enemy while using a last stand attack, you can immediately use your last stand attack again to finish them off. On day 4, I separated the camera logic into 2 separate parts, one that tracks the movement of the player and the other that tracks the movement of your mouse, so that now the camera will smoothly move based on your mouse movement, but follow a little bit more closely based on your player movement. This makes it so that dashing now has a better sense of speed and impact. I also added some colors to the UI to more clearly indicate when you've run out of energy and you're exhausted and when you recover. On day 5, I did a little bit of background game design. You see, previously with the special abilities, I was only going to allow you to use one at a time, and you would have to swap through them in your inventory in order to use them. I decided instead to make it so that all 4 abilities can now be used simultaneously, and I changed what used to be a passive upgrade for an automatic slow-mo effect when you kill an enemy and turned it instead into just a cool visual effect that happens whenever you're clearing the last enemy in an area. Alright, so that's everything I worked on this week. Next week, I got a lot to talk about here. So first of all, I now have my musician, my sound effects person, and my art person all officially on board. And hopefully, in a few weeks from now or so, I'll be able to share with you guys a little bit of a preview of the things that they've been working on. I don't want to do it too early because I want it to be close to what the final version of the game will look like rather than it being close to too early in the conceptual phase. But nonetheless, it's exciting stuff. In terms of the work that I'm going to be doing, what I've decided to do is this. Now that I have an essentially flawless base, I'm going to build it step by step, iteratively, 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 iteratively. I'm going to completely remove the ranged archer enemies from the game. There's going to be nothing but melee enemies, and I'm going to keep the abilities aside and all that extra stuff aside. And instead, I'm just going to iterate on nothing more than these melee enemies and your character and the basic combat that goes in between them until I perfected it. I'm going to make one melee enemy that dashes at you, as we currently have, one that charges at you, another one that maybe always deflects your attacks the first time so that you have to clash with him first and then dash back into him to kill him, maybe guys that you have to get around, and different combinations of this kind of stuff until I have some good variety there and it just feels even more fun to play than it does now. Now, let me share with you why I am a genius, okay? Because I am going to take those special abilities and I'm going to make you unlock them as you progress through the game, okay? And as you progress through the game and unlock these abilities, the enemies will become more advanced so that you have to use these abilities in order to defeat them. So that as the game proceeds, it will become increasingly complex and you will have to master all 4 abilities to be able to defeat all the enemies that come your way. And you're going to be like... Whew. Okay, so that's it for this week. As usual, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, follow me on social media, buy my first game, and make sure to keep your mouth as wide open as possible this week so that John Richitiello can put his big fucking balls inside of your mouth. And we'll see you next week. I'm doing this to make myself cry. And also to secure my role in the sequel to Clockwork Orange. The things I do to make these fucking videos.